The ChirpX Launch Site. What is it for? How does it benefit the city? Should I build one? If so, where do I build it? And what does it need are all the questions we will answer in episode 13. I am Captain Obvious, and this is the advanced guide to the ChirpX Launch Site. For all the new viewers, welcome to Fisher Enclave City. For the most part, this is a vanilla built city with all DLCs, and the only mods that we are utilizing are visual mods that does not affect the management aspect of the gameplay. The city is currently thriving and maintaining an impressive 94% traffic flow at a little over 30k population, which we will carry and maintain beyond the 100,000 population mark. Fisher Enclave City also has over 25 million in the bank, and we cannot spend the money fast enough. Therefore, the mayor has decided to spend the excess funds on space exploration by constructing the ChirpX Launch Site. Location and planning can be the make or break whenever you grow your city. In this case, the location of the launch site is just as important. The first thing every mayor should know are the needs of ChirpX, just as much as the mayor should know the needs of the citizens in the city. Other than the standard power and water, the launch site requires deliveries from ore trucks during the rocket construction phase, then oil truck deliveries during the launch preparation phase. So how is this significant? Everyone at some point in time have built the ChirpX, and without knowing the needs of ore and oil, the launch site would eventually gather enough resources on its own, and you can launch the ChirpX whenever it's ready. Yes, generally you can place ChirpX anywhere on the map, but there is an efficient location by having proper planning. To reduce traffic running through the heart of the city, notice how all the industrial areas are isolated at their own corner and takes up about 2 game tiles. Ideally, all the industry trucks will mingle amongst themselves by delivering resources to each other in their own little corner until the unique factories are able to deliver the special goods to the commercial buildings. Basically, do not scatter your industries throughout multiple game tiles, which may force them to crisscross into your city needlessly. To connect power to the observatory and the deep space radar, I used the earthquake sensors to jump connect the electricity instead of having power lines. Electricity is currently not connected, but at some point in the gameplay I did connect the main power to ChirpX. Before we connect power to the launch site, I want to redo the dirt roads because they appear to be a little too smooth and would look more interesting if it were slightly curly, as though it was struggling to climb up the mountain. It makes perfect sense, and it will definitely look more awesome after we've redone all our dirt roads. Now back to what I was saying regarding the industry location. The most optimal location for ChirpX is near your industries where ore and oil are within a short distance. We currently do not have an oil industry, but it is already planned to be placed right here. The ChirpX launch site is atop this magnificent mountain, and notice how we did not disturb the built-in walls. As much as possible, I try to keep any built-in assets in the map, and I do enjoy how we were creative enough to build around the idea of the wall. We have also managed to keep the shipwrecked asset located here, which still requires some decorating surrounding the ship. Perhaps we'll add in a canteen area for where our ore miners will dine during their breaks. Now let's explore the question of, should I add the ChirpX launch site to my city? For the most part, every city aspires to have an airport, and yet it is not absolutely necessary to have that airport in your city to bring in more tourists. An intercity train, bus, or passenger cruise ship should more than suffice as alternate means for visitors to enter your city. Nevertheless, most mayors are compelled to add an airport anyway. Airports are a great space filler, so your city does not have empty open fields or vast areas of just buildings. Furthermore, it is also quite neat to have planes flying about your city. The ChirpX Launch Site justifies itself like an airport. It fills in the empty space on top of this mountain quite nicely, especially when we added the observatory, deep space radar, and a spare shuttle launch site. It is not necessary to have ChirpX, but having one is basically a flex to show that your city can afford to fund space exploration, and it is also an extra vehicle that you can ride to view in the first person while the rocket is launching into space. The benefit of ChirpX will send out a literal wave of happy smiles as the rocket launches. And because it is a unique building, it also attracts more tourists to visit your city. I mean, who wouldn't want to visit a city with a rocket ship? In real life, if I could, I would visit any city with a rocket about to launch because that is something you do not see every day. And that is also something I would like to see with my own eyes than on a monitor or a device. Speaking of visiting the launch site, it will need a quick mode of transportation to get up the mountain and back down to the city. An underground metro can perfectly work, but if you have seen my past cities, I actually avoid any form of tunneling whatsoever. So this city currently has no underground metro or tunnels. I simply enjoy watching the trains travel above ground instead of hiding under the soil. I do not recommend the no tunneling policy for other mayors, but if you're looking for a challenge, anyone is more than welcome to try. In the end, you will appreciate watching your trains travel across your city above ground. But a fair warning to anyone who does decide to take up this challenge that you will find yourself occasionally ripping through your city to build tracks. Ultimately, it will be all worth it after you have completed your rail network like from our Season 1 series. The great part about making tracks is making the journey interesting, and I thought it may look cool to make the rail go between rocky hills. I just need to make sure that the built-in trees with this rock formation does not intersect with the rails. But the worst part about building tracks is the challenge to not make it look like a roller coaster ride with several swoops and wave heights. Now that looks cool already. Let us assess the damage that we have to fix as the track goes up the mountain. We need to make sure that the heights do not change too often, that the slopes do not look natural. And remember that we do not have Move It mod, so making the rail slope naturally will be severely challenging, and yet it can be done in vanilla. We will need to trim this mountain ever so slightly, and we first want to establish the path of the rail. Just look at how wavy that track is. It's not too severe with insane climbs and dips, so I suppose you can call this the roller coaster version for grandma. Now that we have the path determined, it is now time to smooth out the slope so it is less jaggy. In episode 11, I asked you, the viewers, to suggest names for the method of making perfectly sloped bridges by first digging extremely deep holes, then connecting the bridge. I selected the suggestion by MVD to call the method as the Trench Bridge Technique, or TBT. It is simple and direct to the point. A trench is basically a deep hole, and a bridge is a bridge. Despite the fact that we are currently not making any road bridges, the idea is still the same. Slowly yet surely, this will be an extremely tedious task of digging, then reconnecting, then checking if it was done right, then repeat from one side of the track to the other. I could instantly fast forward to the next scene, but I think it is important to showcase to our vanilla players, primarily the console players, that it is quite possible. From here, you can already see the progress of how smooth and sexy the rail is becoming. There will still be some tracks that would have to be redone because it was a little too straight or the curve is not wide enough. If you have OCD, then this is the perfect game for you. But if you think I'm OCD, I know some players who builds their water pipes on their main roads and make the pipes curve with short straight pipes to a curve as the road above curves. That was a mouthful, but yeah, that happened. If that's not OCD, then I don't know what is. Not judging, as I've said many times, you are the mayor of your own city and there's no wrong or right way to do things as long as you're happy with the outcome. For instance, above 90% traffic flow with over 100,000 population is my threshold, but it doesn't have to be for everyone. 85, 80% or a little lower is just as acceptable as long as you're satisfied with the outcome of your city. Look at the smoothness of the track and how it flosses between these boulders. We might need to wait until we activate the track before we can determine if it's necessary to further separate the rock formations. Until then, we will just need to fill in the holes and check again and again in all angles for any flaws. So far, so good, and the last piece of track that we need to smooth out is on top of the mountain heading towards the monorail station. And just like that, we've managed to construct a convincing and smooth rail network from the ChirpX Launch Site to the city and eventually across the river. This was indeed another beautiful project, and I am glad that I was able to share this incredible journey with you, the viewers. Let's activate the monorail station so we can check the smoothness of the track. Before we do so, let's have just one final look from the top to the bottom of the mountain and an extreme top view to see if the track curves are acceptable. Check out the re-established dirt roads on how more organic it looks and feels. For crying out loud, I completely forgot to actually add in that city monorail station. But fortunately, we were able to find this editable block which mostly have local and organic produce, and it would not hurt the overall city stats if they were demolished to make way for adding a monorail station. I generally plan the contents of all 9 tiles, but I also make room for error. The city should be versatile enough for slight adjustments, such as adding this monorail station, and towards the end of the series, we will include either a blimp or a helicopter depot in front of this monorail station. If you haven't noticed already, I try to include every type of transportation available in the game. However, the only mode of transportation which I have not utilized are the cable cars. I just can't seem to find an appropriate time and place for them. Due to its inefficiency, our new viewers may be skeptical for the use of blimps and/or helicopters. They seem to attract more passengers than their capacity can cater, yet I assure you that the blimps and helicopters will be efficient, and I am more than happy to share these advanced strategies as I continue to do so. Finally, the city monorail station is complete, and all we need to do is to add some minor detailing by planting trees, then we can proceed to activate this route. The high-density buildings nearby are mostly commercial buildings and offices, so noise pollution will not be an issue. Let us take a ride on this monorail route to check if the journey is smooth enough for Grandma to want to come and watch the rocket launch. I've slightly separated these boulders a little so the trees will not brush onto the monorail train. And as we go uphill, it is as smooth as silk compared to how the track was initially constructed. Let's check out that wall with the observatory behind it. You could actually see the lens of the telescope. And look at that massive ChirpX logo, and we could see the rocket from here and the shuttle in the background. We are now approaching the stop, and I intentionally placed it in front of the parking lot so we could have a glimpse of the rocket and space shuttle. Okay, I was a little distracted with the scenery, and we've lost track on our objective to verify that the track isn't janky. Well, this looks as smooth as you'll ever get. While looking at the track, use your peripheral vision to check out that deep space radar on the left, and on the right, check out that crane in action. It is quite rare to be able to marvel on how these machines operate. Absolutely magnificent. And towards the city, you can see the Eiffel Tower from a distance and check out that hot air balloon. That is excellent timing. We are about to reach the station, and here in front, we will eventually add a blimp or helicopter stop. Oh wow, that is awesome. The hot air balloon is going to land. This was one of the shortest yet most scenic monorail rides ever. It was eye candy everywhere. We are now currently working on the coastline in front of the forest industry that we did not complete in the previous episode. The progress of the city is absolutely amazing, especially when we have nearly filled every area on this side of the river. The last piece of this puzzle is to add the oil industry, which we are not able to because industry is not in demand. Always remember to zone according to the city's needs. If we continue to add industry or offices, that is when we will start to experience imbalances such as not enough buyers for goods. This is something that you want to avoid completely. In front of stations, in this case the ferry pier, we aim to feature unique buildings and parks, for they act as an incentive for the passengers to visit the station. I will be placing the Statue of Industry and the unique food factory as the point of attraction. We are keeping the heights of the buildings to at a medium level because the tallest features in this district are the forestry processing buildings. Since this district has pollution from the forest processing buildings, I've decided to place 2 additional fish factories instead of our go-to fish markets. The difference between them are that fish markets produces no pollution and is therefore more friendly to place within coastlines that attract tourists, while the fish factory produces 50 pollution, but its benefit is that it can process the fish to canned goods which are delivered to shops in commercial zones. Look at how we've managed to plant each individual tree along the 4-lane road with tram tracks and on the edge of the coastlines, from one side of the map to the other. The avenue abruptly ended here, however, if necessary, I've made enough room for the avenue to continue towards the coastline and could bridge across the river. I have not yet finalized this decision because I am not completely sure what I'd want to zone on the other side of this coastline. The highway bridge may be more than enough to cater any vehicles to cross this river, and having another bridge may become redundant. I have also added my Discord link in the video description where you can share your city progress with screenshots. The social links such as Facebook and Instagram have screenshots of cities that I've built, so if you're looking for inspiration but don't want to go through an entire video, these socials are the place to visit. If you are watching this video between March 11th to the 18th, 2021, then you can go pick up your copy of Surviving Mars in Epic Games for free. It's another Paradox City survival game, but on Mars. This is Captain Obvious, and I thank you for watching all the way to the end to get this free game tip. But of course, this is not my game. I'm simply sharing the news that it is free on Epic Games. You all take care, and I hope to see you again in the next episode.